The Economic Forum in Davos has ordered compliant US states to shoot aerosol into the atmosphere to block the sun, to fight climate change. And as we've seen, when Klaus Schwab says jump, compromised global leaders ask how high. That's right. The elite have just revealed that they're engaged in a secret geoengineering project involving chemtrails that's being kept quiet for decades because they were terrified that the public would rise up against them. But what if I told you that there is an actual conspiracy here? And what if I told you the mainstream media are still trying to cover up the truth about who is really involved and what's really happening? For decades, the government and mainstream media claim that chemtrails are a conspiracy theory, and we should not believe what we can see with our own eyes. Even when chemtrail planes were caught in the act, turning off their sprayers once they delivered their payload, we were told to believe the telltale chemtrails in the sky were nothing more than condensation trails. They really do think we're stupid. But unfortunately for the mainstream media, so-called conspiracy theorists have been proven right yet again, and the media are being forced to eat crow. From the deck of a decommissioned aircraft carrier in San Francisco Bay last week, researchers from the University of Washington began launching trillions of modified salt particles into the atmosphere to block sunlight from reaching the Earth. Who gave them permission to block the sun? It certainly wasn't we the people. We were not even consulted. The elites have admitted they didn't announce this incredibly risky chemtrail experiment to avoid public backlash. In other words, this isn't a chemtrail conspiracy theory. It is, by definition, a conspiracy. The elite conspired to keep this experiment a secret. According to a report by the New York Times, the secrecy was based on concerns that if the public knew the full scope of what was happening, critics would try to stop them. That's one hell of an understatement. In reality, if the public knew what the global elite were doing behind the scenes, they would be swinging from lampposts. As usual, the elite are treating humans like guinea pigs because they believe they have a God-given right to experiment with our health and well-being. The Scientific American warns that artificially creating cloud cover could alter weather patterns in unclear ways and potentially limit the productivity of fisheries and farms. Even Greenpeace is skeptical of the idea, saying that the consequences of this could be disastrous. Greg Goldsmith, the Associate Dean for Research and Development at Chapman University, warns, "History has shown us that when we insert ourselves into modification of nature, there are always very serious unintended consequences." Does any of this sound in any way natural to anyone? No. It's not natural at all. It's not nature. It is engineered from beginning to end, covered up by the media, and serving the agenda of the global elite. None of this should come as any surprise when you learn that Bill Gates is involved in the project. The mainstream media has been ordered to cover up this fact, but Gates has been involved from the very start of the conspiracy to block the sun without public consultation. Gates approached Armand Newcomans, a Silicon Valley engineer who had previously worked for Xerox developing a nozzle to spray ink particles for printers. And he asked him to develop an industrial-sized nozzle to spray modified salt aerosols into the atmosphere. The engineer received a $300,000 investment from Gates to begin developing the nozzle. Finally, after various false starts, the technology was ready last year. So there we have it. A project that began with investment from Bill Gates is now spraying chemicals into the atmosphere with the goal of blocking sunlight to fight climate change. And they did it in secret to avoid public backlash. Of course, the mainstream media hasn't apologized for pushing fake news about chemtrails for decades. Their audience has been brainwashed so successfully, they don't even want to hear the truth. According to the BBC, which spent decades denying chemtrails exist, chemtrails should now be officially recognized as a new type of cloud in the International Cloud Atlas. We can't allow this to become the new normal. And for those who say this is tinfoil hat territory, what if I told you that we've got all the evidence we need to prove the government and mainstream media have been lying to the public about chemical cloud seeding operations for decades? Educator and activist Peggy Hall has unearthed US government documents from over 50 years ago that reveals the government admitted to manipulating weather events, including hurricanes, for its own benefit. According to the documents, the Department of the Navy and the Department of the Air Force, along with General Electric, worked together to manipulate hurricanes. If they were doing this behind the scenes over 50 years ago, imagine what they're doing now. This bombshell information was unearthed by Hall in a paper published by General Electric, titled History of Project Cirrus from 1947 to 1952, which was a study of how cloud particles and cloud modifications can affect hurricanes.
the government admits to manipulating hurricanes. Now, for you, my smart, savvy, supportive, sometimes snarky, healthy Americans, that is probably no news to you. You know that weather manipulation has been around for a long time. And the question people have is, Peggy, why in the world would the government want to do that? Why would the government want to manipulate the weather? Why would the government intentionally seek to harm us? Well, if you've been awake and aware and alert for the last 2.5 years, you know exactly what's going on. You know that the government wants to control us, not only the weather, it wants to control us. And it wants to create and instill a sense of fear and terror and dread, so that when people are uprooted, they are going to experience a hardship, not only emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, socially, economically. But don't just take my word for it or my opinion. Now we're going to actually dive in to the facts and the evidence. So the first thing I'm going to do is I need to find all of this that got deleted. Okay, here's what I want to do. I'm going to take you right on over, and you are going to see a document. Well, let me take you right on over and we'll take a look there.
I don't know who you are. I don't know where you are. But you may want to start changing your ways.